Hello, welcome to The Void, because for some reason Deep Rock can't quick resume anymore. Honestly, I think it's because they did something to games where nowadays, when on Xbox, they changed something recently. You click on something, it does this, brings up this window. It's kind of cool, you can see how much playtime I have. It's a lot less, by the way, than my actual in-mission time, which is important. The point is, welcome back to Overclock Showcase. I've got a couple sort of weird logistic things that I need to sort of pontificate about, but I think it's obviously best saved until I'm actually in a mission. Of course, if you watched the end of the last episode, you'd know that this time we are on to, I would say, yeah, probably the most notorious Bulldog Overclock, certainly. Maybe even the most notorious Gunner secondary, because it really is like a balance outlier. It's just this weird thing that exists that arguably shouldn't, basically, and that of course is Volatile Bullets, like I said, for the Bulldog. If you somehow have been living under a rock and don't know what Volatile Bullets does, well, it's fairly simple. It says it right there. Deal massive damage, deal massive fire damage. That's actually important, by the way. Massive fire damage to burning targets. It's one very significant thing I need to make sure I am 100% sure about, because I could easily say something and be wrong about it, so just give me one singular second. I was right, by the way. And I'll tell you what I was right about when it makes sense, which is probably going to be like immediately. It does say significantly less direct damage, which is something I don't take into account too often, that it's significantly less. I always knew that the penalty was damage, but how much is it exactly? I don't know if significant is the right word here. It's 10. It's not a lot. So, whereas, let's not factor in weak point damage for now. So basically, without the overclock, with this exact build, but not considering weak point damage, you would do 80 damage, right, with a body shot. Instead, with this, you're going to be dealing 280 damage, because it's plus 300%. As long as the enemy's burning, of course. So that was always like, oh, well, this overclock can't be that good, because it's quite specific circumstances, and it's true. It is technically, on a frequency basis, difficult to activate the effects of this overclock. There aren't many ways to do it reliably, but there is a way to do it reliably, and that kind of completely just eliminates any worries about that. And that, of course, is Burning Hell. Burning Hell is definitely up there. This is sort of really in Fat Boy territory as far as like notoriety. Burning Hell is, I think, probably is the most overpowered overclock in the game, and yeah, we're going to be using it. But if you're a long-standing fan, if anyone remember, well, not that long ago, it was actually the first overclock showcase I did after finishing the season 5 overclocks, was Burning Hell. And that's why, I apologise for, I think I just knocked my desk a bit. That's why its presence in this episode, in this video, is going to be somewhat suppressed. It's going to be there, but it's going to be the second build, and it's not going to be a traditional Burning Hell Volatile Bullets build, which is something I will talk through a little bit once we kind of get to it, or maybe even during this one, because obviously, Overclock Showcase, the core tenet of the series is that I show you the two most different builds that I can come up with that work well for the overclock, right? And what that entails is the other weapon is got to be different in both builds, right? So I certainly wouldn't be using Burning Hell Minigun in both builds. Burning Hell Minigun is obviously going to be one of them. The other one is obviously going to be something with the Hurricane, because the Hurricane is actually technically the more reliable way of achieving this effect, because it has napalm-infused rounds in Tier 5. Now, yes, the Minigun does have a fire upgrade in Tier 5 as well, but it's only activated at a certain level of heat. Hurricane's one is all the time, it's just not a super high amount of heat. But it is still very easy to have on any Hurricane build. But what Season 5 gave us was cluster charges. Cluster charges is a way to... Cluster charges just have in tow a stupendous amount of damage anyway. So the fact that a single missile can kill a grunt in one shot is something that doesn't change between this and not using napalm. Obviously, the main thing that does change is... it's very easy to set Praetorians on fire. I guess you do deal overall less damage to them. At the same time, yeah, so cluster missiles, cluster charges is good at killing things like Praetorians, but I think this shaves off enough missiles where the fact that it sets them on fire very easily, I think it's like literally like 3 or 4 rockets we can do it in, a Praetorian, and then it's primed to be killed. And there is actually, genuinely, by the way, sure, Burning Hell is the prime, like, absolute top of the line version of a Volatile Bullets thing. You want to be using Burning Hell. You know, Burning Hell is your crowd clearing AoE minigun with your insane single target Bulldog in tow, which has the Volatile Bullets on it. But there is actually an argument I'm going to be making for this and why you might use it over it. Of course, the biggest question is whether you should be using this or a different Hurricane Overclock. And the answer is going to be no. And I'll explain why once we get into it. But for now, let's just quickly go through the build. So this is purely an AoE tool in this build, our Hurricane. So AoE size in tier 1. Now, tier 2 was difficult. I wanted to use armor breaking because it's technically more useful for Volatile Bullets. At the same time, the Hurricane's pretty good at armor breaking anyway. And the cluster charges, it slows those missiles down by quite a bit. We're only at 75% despite taking the upgrade. Otherwise, we'd be at, like, actually half, and it is painfully slow, so I really had to change that. Another one I wanted to not change, I wanted to use nano missiles because it does mean 16 more rockets, which in the case of cluster charges is actually a lot. But at the same time, we're trying to hit particular heat thresholds in as quick time as possible, so I've realised pretty quickly that you kind of just need fire rate. It's not really a better option here. And zip fuel, obviously, I mean, our cluster missiles literally can't deal weak point damage anyway, so we just want the zip fuel, more area damage, and fire. And the fire is obviously there to activate Volatile Bullets, but it also avoids the stun upgrade, which is important. And I'll talk about why. And it's not something that you can't avoid with the minigun, because you can, but it still has something to do with why I think this build holds some weight, even when put against Burning Hell specifically. Anyway, our actual Bulldog, obviously, Volatile Bullets. But we've got both accuracy upgrades, we've got the weak point multiplier, and both damage upgrades. So all damage and accuracy. I used to always use neurotoxin coating, and I do think neurotoxin coating is like an amazing upgrade that is better in most cases for the Bulldog, even if you're using it for a single target. But in this case, you don't need it. You just don't. We're just going all damage. We can almost one-shot Praetorians. It's gosh darn beautiful. Now, I'm going to get started. I don't have a mission selected. It's going to be... it's not going to be that, is it? I think it's going to be this. It'll be this. I already had one lined up, and then I went and looked at something. I can tell you what I was doing. I had a normal length deep scan set up. It also said double XP on it, so that was nice. That's kind of the main reason I picked it, but I think it's still a good mission to play for this. And I went off the game briefly just to check. I wanted to check Amazon Prime to see if they had Speed Racer on Prime Video. They don't, by the way. And then went back to Deep Rock, and it failed to quick resume. So here we are. I really want to watch Speed Racer. Anyway, I've actually got quite a lot to talk about. I don't know where I want to start, though. I'm going to start with the weird logistics stuff. Obviously, I'm going to try and gauge the mission and see what we're dealing with here. Warden, going to go straight in for that. Okay, that was one of the cleanest Warden kills I've ever done, actually. Okay, cool. In fact, I'm pretty sure you could probably do the Warden in maybe actually one rocket. I'm not sure. Like, set it on fire, I mean, not kill it. Like, because Wardens, their fire threshold isn't high. I think it's Spitballers, though. Actually, no, Spitballers, it's one. I usually do two for some reason, like, though you don't need to, because I know that one cluster missile is enough to set a Spitballer on fire. And that is beautiful. One cluster missile, one shot from the Bulldog, the Spitballer's dead. It is gorgeous to witness. And I really hope that we witness that. I'm sure we will in one of these builds. Anyway. So, what is the weird logistic stuff that I'm talking about? It's basically when I'm recording this, because I'm trying to... Well, first of all, I'm trying to do a lot of things in life. I'm trying to get a job, first of all. And I don't mean because I'm a bum, right? I'm trying to get a proper job. It's like a proper role at a library, but not just like... that sounds weird. Look, it would be a proper job. That's the point. The point is, I am busy, but I do want to set my sights on the next sort of properly edited video, which, if anyone out there is paying attention, more than they probably should, because I don't say much that's worth paying attention to. If anyone's paying attention, they know that I plan on doing an electromagnets video, a video about the overclock electromagnets, how bad it is. First of all, it is the worst overclock in the game, but also how I would fix it. It's meant to be a constructive video. It's something that I genuinely want to make. It's kind of like the next step after doing my big overclock rebalancing video. Encoding overloaded. I think we're fine. I think I've got plenty of space as well. I think, because I moved like all of my recordings to OneDrive, which cleared up like not hundreds, but I think over 100 gigabytes so of my laptop, which is pretty insane. But yeah, I want to gear up to do that electromagnets video, but I do want it to be seamless. Ideally, there won't be a pause in the overclock showcases, even while I'm making that video. And one of the ways I'm going to achieve that is by taking the opportunities like Volatile Bullets to record the overclock showcase earlier, because it's typically a week between recordings. I record every Sunday typically, actually, because it's a free day. Don't do anything on Sundays. Who does? But that's when I do this. But it's actually not Sunday today. It's actually Thursday. And that's because Volatile Bullets is one of those overclocks where I don't feel the need to be using it for an entire week to know what I'm going to do with it. And there are plenty of overclocks that are like that, actually. Overclocks that I don't need to use for a full week to know where I stand them, because obviously the kind of end game of this series is to make a tier list that is basically titled, I used every overclock for a week and here's my ranking of them. Right, that's the idea. But if it's an overclock like Volatile Bullets, where I probably have, like, honestly 2 days worth of playtime with it already, I'd imagine, like something like that, probably not far off, I don't really feel particularly strong need to use it for, you know, a week for the video, because I've already done it just from playing the game. Something like Chain Hit, let's go with the Bulldog again, that was the previous Bulldog episode. Yeah, I kind of got to use that because it's not an overclock I typically use at all. So in that case, it's fair. Also, we got a Grunt Swarm, which is actually really bad because in this case, the Bulldog is not going to be used to target grunts at all. That's like ridiculous. That's just not what it's for. In fact, the Bulldog is pretty much exclusively for really heavy enemies in this build. Anyway, so is that swarm done actually? It might not be, because I think I was gone long enough for the music to subside. Also, in some cases, you actually saw there where a single rocket didn't take care of the grunt, but in most cases, the single rockets clustering will set fire to a single grunt or slasher and kill them over time. That is typically how it goes. If it doesn't, it's just bad luck. It's not always bad luck. It can be that you can miss in such a way where that is the realistic outcome, or you know, the actual outcome. Like I suppose like that, but that was just on me. Guards are not a terrible reason to use the Bulldog, as long as you can hit them in the face. You're going to one-shot them. I believe that is not the case unless you take both damage mods though, and that's kind of how I see Volatile Bullets. I think you really should take both damage mods, because when it comes to the primaries that you could use, which is obviously the Hurricane and the Minigun, especially when it comes to the Minigun, Burning Hell, it is so disgustingly efficient at doing literally everything except killing tanky targets that there's no reason to... Well, that was weird. Ambushed by Swarmers. There's no reason not to go all in on damage on the Bulldog, because you only need it to do the very few things that the Burning Hell Minigun can't, which is kill the tankiest of enemies. You know? Because the Burning Hell Minigun, it even tears apart like Spitballers. You know, which is something we'll see, because that actually has something to do with the way I've constructed the other build, the one where I do use Burning Hell. It's got quite a particular philosophy behind it, where I have elected to, basically what I'm saying is I've elected to neither of the builds truly reflect, on principle, either of the builds that I used in the... Well, neither of them reflect, really, the Burning Hell build that I used with Volatile Bullets in the Burning Hell video. This is actually the closer of the two, because I guess here's the kicker. In the second build, I'm not using Volatile Bullets for single target. Which it kind of sounds crazy, and I should be a bit more elaborate than that, because it's not quite the case. It's more so that it's a hybrid build. Both weapons do both things, or they just help each other do everything together. That's a more accurate way of putting it. I'm not actually using the Bulldog for AoE with Volatile Bullets, but that is kind of part of the idea. Anyway, what I was actually saying, I just sidetracked myself, was I'm recording this basically halfway through the week instead of at the end of the week. So, you know, a couple of days earlier than I normally would, because I just felt comfortable with what I'd sort of come up with very quick. Even though I came up with some, like, a fairly different build than what I was used to with Burning Hell, I'm still comfortable enough with Volatile Bullets that I knew I could make the video earlier than normal. And after a couple of these, in fact, what this means is, when it comes to because the next episode is going to be the EPC, and the only EPC overclock that I think I could do that with, because I've already done Persistent Plasma, which is one that I'm fairly familiar with, but the only EPC overclock where I think I could shorten the gap between when I have the overclock picked for me and then record the video is Heavy Hitter. I think the rest of them I'm going to need to practice with. But either way, this still opens up the ability then, like, assuming that I actually don't record the EPC video early, it's actually kind of a good thing, because... Alright, here's our first Praetorian, who I obviously wanted to shoot in the ass, but... okay, I'll talk about it in a moment. Basically, the point is I should be able to start working on the Electromonics video as soon as when a gap is created by doing something like this. Also, weird thing just happened there. My Hurricane jammed for a moment. There's actually something that happens with cluster charges for some reason. It just jams the weapon sometimes, even jams the reloading. I was pressing the button, it wasn't doing anything for a moment there. Anyway, so the Praetorian, we should talk about the Praetorian, because obviously the idea, you do want to hit them in the weak point, and I'll go straight for the Jugular actually. That's where the difference between the Hurricane not having stun and the Minigun having stun comes in. Because stunning Praetorians is the easiest way to knock them out of their breath attack. The breath attack being when they are their most vulnerable. So you kind of actually want the breath attack to carry on. And so with the minigun, it's very easy to disrupt them. The solution is, of course, that you fire the minigun just to the side of the Praetorian, right? That way you'll still be hitting it up with Burning Hell, but you won't be hitting it with the bullets. Therefore, you won't stun it. Yes, that works, but obviously it's more finicky than just having our Hurricane here that's good at setting things on fire and has no chance of stunning anyway. Not that stun wouldn't be nice overall, but against the Praetorians, it works in our favour. However, the flip side of that is it's kind of a loose justification. Overall, Burning Hell is the way to go with Volatile Bullets. That's something I want to hammer home, because the gameplay in this video won't really back that up, unfortunately, because the second build is very experimental. It might not be that impressive. So I want to hammer home that Burning Hell is the best pairing, right? There shouldn't be any ambiguity there. But with the way I've constructed this build, don't know why I shot there, our high damage on the Bulldog actually means you can take care of the Praetorians in 2 shots anyway. Like, as in, if you just hit them in the flesh, hit them in the face, even though it's not a weak point, you're still going to take care of them in 2 shots, as opposed to the 1 shot that you can do just from behind. Especially because that 1 shot, it doesn't actually kill the Praetorian, it just gets it really close. It's the same with the 2 shots, but they're still like equally close to actually killing the thing, I think is my point. And when it comes down to it, yeah, we don't have loads of ammo on our Bulldog, but it's enough where we can justify using 2 shots to kill a Praetorian every now and then on a weapon that has 28 shots. 2 shots for a Praetorian is not that bad. It's not, I think it's kind of my point. So is this grunts again? I don't think so. I think those exploders are part and some sort. Okay, I don't think this is a pure grunt swarm again. I wasn't really paying attention to the callouts. Either way, thank God I found the third crystal already, because that means I can stop the swarms from spawning, because I haven't found any nitro for some reason. I found a bit, but not enough for a resupply, you see. Also, another thing, cluster charges, fantastic against swarmers. Just absolutely brilliant. It's so good. It's not actually that good against tiny enemies. It's actually really bad against flying, like shockers and shredders. But swarmers, it's perfect. Also, weird just fact about tiny enemies. Aside from the parasites, which I guess are a bit of an anomaly in this case. Aside from the parasites, also I used 2 shots in that Praetorian. Even you saw how much damage we did with the 1 shot. Aside from the parasites, every tiny enemy's name starts with S. Because there's actually 4. There's probably more than you think. There's Glyphid Swarmers. There is Nadocyte Shockers. So obviously, you know, the species name doesn't necessarily begin with an S. And there's Rival Shredder drones, right? There's also a 4th one, which is actually Glyphid Spawn, which are the things that come out of a Brood Nexus. So they all begin with S. The only thing that throws it off is parasites, but, you know, parasites are weird. Parasites and Rockbox larvae. So I think they're technically tiny enemies. I'm actually not 100% on that, but I think the point of a tiny enemy is it's anything that can be killed by 1 hit of pickaxe. That can't be true. That would make exploders tiny enemies. And they're not. Exploders are medium. Tiny is just a size thing, so parasites are definitely tiny enemies. Anyway, I'm going to dig this out. Get called in the thingamabob. What's actually the resonant scanner is the thing that you call in. And then I'm going to go feed my cat. Let's get these Ebo nuts, actually. Actually, I just remembered, you don't just see me collect Ebo nuts. I'll be back. So I just sorted out the 3rd resonance crystal. There's just this random Praetorian. In fact, I want Bosco out of the picture on this. Oh, I got 2. 2 can do it. Also, I want to see how much fire damage this guy really takes, because I'm going to explain something now. After this. Okay, that's fine. Which is the thing I mentioned earlier that I had to check Carl.gg for. Basically, I think there's something very specific to the way that this thing's worded. Deal massive fire damage to burning targets. They normally would not say that it changes the damage type. Because I think conductive bullets, for example, really basic example, but conductive bullets on the Zukovs, I believe it does. I think all elemental damage bonuses add their damage as the type that they get the benefit from. But that's not really how it's described normally. And I think that's because of the weird dichotomy and just paradox that is the way that Ghost Ship have gone about describing and explaining like elemental effects and whatnot. Because I think the reason why it's fire damage is because what they're actually trying to tell you is that it's applying heat as well. I think that's their way of doing that, basically. Because that's what it does. So yeah, it deals its bonus damage in the form of fire damage, but fire damage in of itself doesn't heat enemies up. It's simply a damage type, and therefore plays into weaknesses and strengths and whatever, or things that it's like, you know, strong against, or enemies it's resistant to, whatnot. All that kind of stuff gets applied from that. It doesn't actually have anything to do with the effect itself. Of course, most things that inflict heat, that's the thing that sets things on fire. Of course, most things that inflict heat do fire damage, obviously. About to sneeze. Excuse me. Yeah, most things that deal heat are also dealing fire damage. Except, actually, firebolts on the bolt shark. They don't deal any damage, they only inflict heat. But basically, I think when they say, oh, deals it as fire damage, that's its way of saying it's also inflicting the heat as well. Because otherwise, I guess most people wouldn't know otherwise that it is. I think the idea is that people are supposed to interpret the fact that it says specifically that it deals massive fire damage is that it is applying the heat as well. I think that's what Ghost Ship are going for, even though really maybe not, because obviously it should just say it applies the heat as well. So basically what's happening, it deals its bonus damage in the form of fire damage, but it adds the same amount of heat. And what that means is it adds a lot of heat to an enemy that's already burning, which means it's going to keep them burning for longer. And that's why Volatile Bullets is actually better against Praetorians than you might... Well, Praetorians, sure. it's better against oppressors than you might think. Given that oppressors, they barely take... they're quite resistant to a lot of things. First of all, you know, their weak point resistances and whatnot. And they cool down very quickly. They don't stay on fire for very long. So this is kind of cool. This terrain conversion here. They don't stay on fire for very long. But when the thing that's hitting them is inflicting heat as well as dealing damage, it's going to help keep them on fire for longer. Also, this cave is just completely... just skimp on nitra. There's none. I found 46 nitra so far. It's ridiculous. And it's kind of important because I'm going to need some nitra for this. I mean, did the elevator go through a vein? It looks like it did. Which means, if that's the case, a lot of nitra is down. A lot of nitra is down there in the hole, which isn't ideal. I don't really see any more nitra around here. This is a bit ridiculous, actually. This is one of the most nitra scarce caves I've seen in my entire career. Any here? No? Okay. Fine. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to have to dig underneath the drill. Oh, hold on. Oh, I think we're good. It's the exact amount we need. Okay. Right, yeah, because I'm going to get resupply before we do this. Obviously. Kind of funny that we've got cluster charges, which is actually a pretty bad overclock for the drill elevator segment. But whatever. I suppose it would have been kind of cool to try and bring the resupply with us. Although I'm not sure if you can actually do that, really. And I'm just going to go for it, because no enemies are going to spawn until we start anyway. Even though I've got still already maxed out on lead bursters, the only time I'm going to get to use that resupply again is when I come back up here with the jetty boots. So, let's do this. And there's the actual nitra. So how often do you think about the fact that the Bulldog destroys terrain? Probably not very often.
One moment, the drill has encountered compacted shield. We should be moving again shortly.
Wait, no! Where's that going to land? Bad place. It's not too bad, but still not ideal. Oh, nice. That was actually a pretty clean weak point hit. Chances of me hitting a stingtail, though, are very low. That's where the arm breaking was really useful. A thing like a stingtail, where their weak points are covered by the armor. Now, I did notice, because if you're going to get up against something like a Brundle, obviously you're going to be setting it on fire by hitting it directly, not by clustering. And it takes like 3 shots, I think, roughly, to set the Brundle on fire anyway. And that's about how many. Like, it's broken through the arm by that point, and you can shoot the weak point. Okay, overall, that went fairly well. Quite well, in fact. Still didn't get to do the ultimate. I mean, frankly, Brood Nexuses and Spit Borders are both the most satisfying things to use Volatile Bullets against. So it's kind of a shame we didn't get either of those. And because of the nature of the next build, it's not going to be quite the same as how that would normally go down. But, oh well. I think you still saw the general strength of the basic Volatile Bullets for single target approach. And obviously that is the main approach. The next build is going to be weird. Especially if you're like a Volatile Bullets user. You've probably never done something like the next build. And I don't blame you. But it is playing into a very real part of Volatile Bullets. So I'm getting myself killed for no reason here. But I could easily shield. Because I've been jumped. when you get jumped, that's when you use a shield, and I'm just like, nah, I'm good. No, I'm probably not good. Ooh, that was delicious. Right, let's get on with this, because I do want to show you the next build. And that's the thing, if you really want to see what Volatile Bullets is at its peak, I'm kind of taking a knee with this video, because it's that Burning Hell video. That is the one where, you know, that's the true peak version of this overclock. Not that this build isn't. This is still a very good way to use it. I would say this probably is the best version of it with the Hurricane, but the best version of Volatile Bullets is with the Minigun. And I'm not doing that normal best version with the Minigun build that you'll be seeing in this video. So I am playing with the expectations of what like someone should be doing with Volatile Bullets. This build, the one I'm using right now, is a very strong recommendation. I hope that's obvious, but I'm still decidedly not showing you the very best build with this overclock. If that comes across as weird, that's fine. It's just the approach I've decided to take for this video.
I'm taking some of the air. Drop pod arrived. Mule is returning to LZ. Drop pod departing in T-minus 5 minutes.
Okay. That's pretty close. The Praetorian returns. Running away from me. Damn it. Damn it. Oh, fuck it, that's fine. It's fine. I mean, the fact that it takes like 2 or 3 shots, that's fine. It's you know, sometimes all you're really looking for is speed of killing, and that is fast. Also, sometimes it pays to not be conservative with your ammo anyway. Like the Hurricane, if you want to just dump out a couple shots and just go nuts with it, it's going to serve you well. It's not ammo efficient, but it will get the job done.
Departing in T-minus 4 minutes.
Something that I really did enjoy doing when I did the original Cluster Charges build show, Overclock showcase, was using the obviously the 2 versions that I showed was a fire version and a non-fire version. With the fire version, the non-fire version, I did an elimination, and it was very fun. I think I did elimination because I know it's like it's got good single target. Like if you build like a bunch of missiles and then drop them to the dreadnought, it does a lot of damage. Great stuff. Much like this Volatile Bullets build is great stuff. The next one, perhaps not as much, but it should still be interesting. Actually, sorry, speaking to the mic. I shouldn't say perhaps. It is worse. Every time I've used this other build, I've lost all of my Osco revives. And in fact, I think I've actually failed a mission with it as well. So it is an experiment. Like, I'm being very open about that. This next build you're going to see is not really something that I'm recommending. It's kind of just it's arguably for my benefit. Oh shit. Okay, well actually no, that's fine. I'm sure I can get a mission done before the end. Gonna be though. What makes sense for this? In some ways, actually no, there's nothing that like is that obvious for it. So I'm gonna push myself to the limit. I'm gonna go crazy style. I'm gonna do salvage op. And obviously I want to explain this pretty quickly, so let's just do it. So, okay, I already told you that the minigun is... Burning Hell is so ammo efficient that I've decided in this case, our Burning Hell minigun is a single target tool. Sorry, the cat just started yelling for some reason. Anyway, I've already explained this is meant to be a single target version, because how efficient Burning Hell is, we can still use it to very easily just set hordes on fire. It's just a sort of Devastator effect is kind of what it is. Also, I was supposed to take improved stun. I should have done that in practice, so I feel kind of bad about this. But I realised that that was kind of the entire point. This is absolutely just sort of stunning machine, taking care of trash enemies, sort of dealing solid damage to big ones. It's kind of just an omni tool. So we've got damage in tier 2, we've got the stun just to help stun everything, because our version of Volatile Bullets here does not care about armor. We do not need armor breaking. Spin up is always what you want with Burning Hell. Even though this is more of a single target version of the minigun with Burning Hell, you still want to spin up because that means you can just so easily basically just tap. It's for swarmers, really. It's a spin up. And then hot bullets, that's going to give some more damage. Burning Hell helps build up heat anyway, gets to hot bullets faster, set on fire those long, like far away enemies. Like this, mainly spitballers is a big one for that. Bulldog glow. There it is. There's the kicker. Explosive rounds. Why? Because the effects of volatile bullets apply to the explosions as well. That means against the burning enemy, we are dealing 120 damage. That's enough to kill a grunt. The grunt's going to die from the fire anyway, so it's more so for slashers and guards. The point is, it's dealing that much damage with about double the ammo the other build has, and it's got the AoE in tow. That's kind of the point. Unbiased with armor, is actually still very good at killing single targets, like heavy enemies. And so I'm just going to jump right into it, especially because I want to get this mission done fairly quickly, so I can select that double XP deep scan for whenever I next play. Which would actually be soon, because it would be very likely, there's a chance next time I play. Actually, no, it wouldn't be that. I mean, it could, depending on how I feel after doing this, because I know I'm going to have to record some footage for Electromine this. Actually, I need to think about all the different footage that I'll need for Electromine this, for that like video essay. I guess it's a video essay, I guess. Because I need footage obviously of Electromine this. I kind of need footage of it being, bad, whatever that really means. And I need footage of the things that I want to sort of that help me illustrate like my proposed changes. Which I don't mind talking about here actually. The main thing I'm going to propose for Electromine that's like as a change is to make it like, I'll just let Mission Control get through his shit. Come on, mate, hurry up. Anyway, the main thing I'm going to suggest, like as a change for Electromine is actually to turn it into something like, make the minelets act like how taser bolts do on the Bolt Shark. That's going to be one of my main suggestions for how to improve the overclock. Does that make it a really cool hybrid of being a single target overclock or a complete crowd clearing control overclock? As such, I think I'd also suggest increasing the spread, so obviously the minelets spread themselves out and create like an electric field. And it would also make using the 6-round burst really interesting, because the entire problem with Electrominelets is that it's a you're putting a status effect that doesn't stack on a burst weapon. That's going to be one of the key arguments for why it's stupid. As in, by the way, what that means is Electrominelets actually work better in Rogue Core, because all elements in Rogue Core work on a build-up meter, like how hot and cold do in Deep Rock. Every element works like that in Rogue Core. But electricity is just static. You inflict it or you don't. And that's not going to change with Deep Rock already, so I assume it's not. And so it's weird that you have the weapon that does it in a burst fashion. It just doesn't make sense, basically. And it pales in comparison to what you can do with the electric trail on the coil gun, where that actually makes sense, because it doesn't actually apply a status effect. It just deals electric damage while enemies are in field. I think that's how it works anyway. Also, we've got some swarmers. That's nice. Obviously, this isn't meant to be a Burning Hell showcase, but when it comes to swarmers, it is. Because there's actually nothing better. The only thing that comes close to being this good against swarmers is Boiler Ray Wave Cooker, which is good, by the way. It's really good. But that's honestly more so. What that trumps is it's the best thing for NATO side. I don't remember if I was saying anything. Oh yeah, basically Wave Cooker with Boiler Ray. There's literally nothing better at killing NATO sites than that. It's hilarious. Also, that's quite the layup. Thanks, game. Making things easy for me. Hello, friends. Obviously, this is supposed to be a Volatile Bullets showcase, so there's a little bit of that for you. But like I said, with the grunts, it's kind of a bit arbitrary, because they're going to die to the fire anyway. This is mainly for like weird stuff. if that makes any sense. Also, it's also for stuff like this, like a acid spitter. Sure, I'm just gonna shoot the acid spitter. Like, why not? Get off me!
My beard sense is tingling.
Actually, something that's quite good against is stingtails. Actually. And I just remembered, radioactive Praetorians are actually one of the worst things for volatile bullets. But you can see, actually, that Praetorian, pretty much all that damage came from just the actual AoE, because I was hitting the oppressor with the actual shots, but the Praetorian was taking AoE damage while on fire, and it took quite a lot. But yeah, I mean, I should kind of be a little bit more careful because I'm not really here to compliment this. I'm just here to show sort of a weird experiment that might have some ground to stand on. Some. Not loads. I'm not saying it has no potential because that's kind of the point. I'm definitely saying it has potential, but I'm also not saying it's great. It's just something that I find fascinating, basically. Also, because of how this works, if you get a direct hit, chances are you're going to inflict the neurotoxin.
Took the sting out of the stingtail.
Basically, what's happening with that stingtail, for example, is we're dealing 120 damage to it from the AoE. And that can happen without even hitting it directly. We don't even need to hit the thing. So the armor doesn't matter, but honestly, just hitting the thing at all doesn't matter. It's 120 damage per shot.
You're a stain on the floor.
And that's where I think the potential lies. Obviously, it wasn't great against the Oppressor, for example, and that's where the minigun is kind of there to fill in the role of sort of lasering down bigger enemies when necessary. So the Bulldog kind of operates in this weird spot where it's kind of for sort of, I guess, like finicky priority targets. Menaces, Spreaders, Stingtails, Brundles. He's quite good against Praetorians. Wardens, I would say, only because their weak points are like annoying, difficult to hit. So they're pretty good against the Warden. This does really amplify the run and gun aspect of Burning Hell as well, because we don't have great crowd control. It's fine because we can still inflict fire really effectively, and our Bulldog actually does have AoE stun. There's actually slightly better crowd control than normal Burning Hell. But still, it is still very much so run and gun, which is why I am really putting myself on the line by doing a salvage op. So this is really, like I said, this is for me. This is for me to really establish whether or not this build holds weight. So if I get through this, even if I lose all my revives, if I get through this, I think I have proved something. Especially because we got enemy frequency turned up as well. Obviously, I have the opportunity here to go straight into doing the first uplink. Which I think I'll do, and then I'll go and have a look around for barnacles. I mean, there might be an event somewhere over in sort of that area, but I think I can get away with the uplink now. It's not a terrible idea. So look at the burning loot bugs. Oh, how did you survive? The hell? Was that a hole from a resupply? It is. That's nice. Anyway, yeah, let's do this uplink. I'm interested because this really can help me gauge how this is going to go. Because so you can't expect the fuel cell to be harder, but and I'm sure it will be. But this is still going to be important to gauge things. The one thing that I really do resent about Burning Hell though is it's so overpowered, and yet dreadnoughts, it's not a thing. I did actually, I'm just remembering now, I think that might have had something to do with one of the builds that I did in the actual Burning Hell showcase. I think one of them was very similar to this, because the point was like you can use it for DPS because Burning Hell adds like a flat 30 damage per second that you kind of inflict from any angle, so it does enhance your DPS. Because it's not just applying heat, it is applying damage as well in like the cone effect. Because Burning Hell is overpowered, so you can still use it on elimination. That's really Volatile Bullets falls apart there, because there's no way to set the Dreadnought on fire unless you have a scout with conductive thermals. Which is why, first of all, it's why I love conductive thermals, right? That overclock is amazing. It's ridiculous. It's such a great idea, and the execution is wonderful. It's probably the best overclock of Season 5 that they added. But it's also the only way to set Dreadnoughts on fire. And I kind of wish it wasn't. I wish there was another way to do it. Obviously, you can freeze Dreadnoughts. That's possible. But set them on fire, it's a different game entirely. Oh, that was actually quite easy. Good for me. There we go, he's dead. Okay, so that was a good start. Obviously, I can't do the fuel cell yet if I want to do anything else in the mission, which I do. So I'm gonna go and have a look around. And that's something you don't necessarily need to see unless something important comes up. Actually, guys can get here. Oh, that was terrible. First of all, you need to die. Whoop. Didn't play that very well, did I? Getting these groups of grunts, the guard is my target. Something you probably might have been able to observe so far. And I think I'm going to go straight for the jugular. I need to get this done. Okay. Because, well, now it's going to be only 2 barbarnacles left to kill. Which I'm sure I will be able to find in the intervening moments when I finish the fuel cell and the drop pod is, opens. So I'll take a resupply now, I think. Oh my god. Oh my god. Me and Stalkers. A match made in heaven. For them.
Bosco, you are the best. I needed that.
This shit. You asshole. I'm just gonna put this over here, I think, because I don't... Well, I kind of want it out of the way, relatively speaking, because I don't want... And it's just about right. I might be able to access that while still being in the field. I don't want to create really another point enemies can come through. It's like, on top of my head. Because they're already going to be coming down the hole from the fuel cell itself. Honestly, yeah, I think the AoE stun is actually a big part of this, when I think about it.
Fuel cells connected. Now you just need to prep the fuel cells and the charge sequence will begin.
Yeah, the Bulldog with explosive rounds, that's giving us AoE stun. Not the best ever, but it is better crowd control than you normally have with Burning, because that's Burning Hell's probably its biggest weakness, is it kind of forces you into run and gun. It's still absurdly efficient and gives you an insane amount of free damage. But it does force a run and gun playstyle that this is alleviating slightly. Only slightly. think that was fair given the circumstances. This one might struggle because I think I'm gonna struggle to handle the different openings that the enemies are coming from. Yeah, when it comes down to it, I can just sort of force out a bunch of AoE stun and some neurotoxin as well. That's the benefit of also having lots of ammo. There's no reason to take direct damage with this anyway, but having that ammo is a really nice thing that pairs well with taking the AoE upgrade, explosive rounds upgrade on the Bulldog. So while it's not the best thing in the world, it's definitely a more cohesive build than I originally assumed. I do wonder if anyone's ever... I'm sure people have used this, but I wonder if anyone's ever really proposed this. Like, can you find this build on Cold or GG? You know? Wait. Yeah, we should be good. Whoa! Look at that. Guard squad, which is perfect for us. Did it? And there's no way I lose now, right? Well, the stalker might do me in because I'm an idiot. Oh, well, he hit me. He did hit me. That's a good start for him. Hit me again. Not this time, buddy. Actually, what? Hold on. I need to find barnacles.
Calculating orbital trajectory. Grabbing ammo. Really much better. Powering radiation shielding.
You're dead to me.
Ecom operational. Shield charged. Tell me again, why was it that we needed to kill the barnacles?
I do like the implication that the dwarves don't actually like killing the barnacles that much. I don't know where my third barnacle is. Third? 16th, I think is what I meant to say. We got time. But I'd probably have to go towards spawn to really find one like this. The only place I can imagine one being. We might not have time for that. Nevertheless, I'll attempt such a thing. In fact, I might lose the mission by doing this. Though that would be really stupid because it's definitely not worth a single barnacle that is only for the secondary objective. Okay, time to go.
Here we go.
Oh, is that a detonator?
Shield ready.
Oh, there's no way of knowing. It has to come around the front. Oh, I think the detonator just spawned. Yep. Okay, that's detonator. Oh, there you go. You can see the fire effects. Well, that went a lot better than I thought it would. I can say that much. Quite a short mission, of course, so that limits the number of experiences that I'm really showcasing that build with. But I still think it's really interesting that there's clearly some merit to this. Using volatile bullets with explosive rounds is not something. It only occurred to me when I had to do this video. I'd literally never thought about it before, but I'm at least glad I've tried it because it's really interesting. Because I mean, when you play Deep Rock in the way that I do, you realise how much depth it has, mechanically speaking. Yeah, sure, there's no like story mode. Not really any dynamic like weekly elements to really play around with, like extra characters. Like I always envisaged getting like monthly or weekly bounties from like different characters. They wouldn't even necessarily have like voice lines, but they'd still be like Ranger Garthnax wants you to like hunt down cave leeches or something. It's like a weekly quota. Even just having something like the Miners Union like in the console version would be really nice. But the game has so much mechanical depth when it really comes down to it, that I'm just constantly impressed by. And it's it's constantly revealed to me the more I play it. There's so much to it. And it's for me, it's all from a solo perspective as well, which I think is also very interesting. But yeah, Volatile Bullets is as good as ever and is more ripe for experimentation than I thought. So have at it. I hope you saw something interesting with that second build and maybe saw a really solid way of using traditional Volatile Bullets in a way that you hadn't before. Because maybe you've been relying on the minigun the whole time. The Hurricane is also there for your use. It's a very good way to use Volatile Bullets. Anyway, that is going to be it for this episode of Overclock Showcase. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to see more stuff like this, and you want to stay on top of everything to do Deep Rock and Roadcore, then also click the bell. And thank you, as always, to our wonderful member, BoxFox Scoot. Now, time to find out what I'll be doing next. Of course, I don't know exactly when I'll be recording this next episode, but I do know that the weapon in question is the EPC. And like I said, yeah, Heavy Hitter is the only one that I think I could probably do in less time than usual, because I've already done Persistent Plasma, and even then Persistent Plasma I kind of did need the time, even though it's the one I'm second most familiar with. Heavy Hitter I've got on lock though, I know what to do with Heavy Hitter. But if you haven't seen those works before, basically I number the overclocks from left to right, top to bottom, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I put them in the Wheel of Fortune. It should be up, that's carl.gg, not the Wheel of Fortune. Here's the wheel. Don't read what that man has on his shirt. And now we spin to find out what the overclock's going to be. So of course, Heavy Hitter is 2, Overcharger is 5, wouldn't mind that. We're going to get 1, the most boring EPC overclock of all time. However, I do think I know how to use this thing. Maybe not in a shorter window, although it's the kind of overclock you wouldn't want to use for too long. It's a magnetic cooling unit, it's the MCU. Now, who is this going to get equipped on? So am I going to have like a very preliminary thought? Energy rerouting is probably about right. Let's just slap it on and let's see what happens. Okay, next time on Overclock Showcase, magnetic cooling unit on the EPC. How exciting. Anyway, what we get to do now is of course have our Volatile Bullets themed drink, and that is not difficult to imagine at all. So let's get on with that.
Bang your head to this. You know, you're not being paid by the hour. Get to work. Some burning love, please, and make it sizzle. Cheers.
Oh god. Self-mutilation via dancing. Brilliant.
Oh, yeah. If you're rocking stone, you're never alone.
Quite the image. See you later.
Much better.
I'll see you later.